To bake a normals map, the first thing you'll do, well, the first thing I do, I delete all this stuff here because I don't need it. Doggone it. Give me a second. Damn it. So you can delete everything, you don't need it. Next, what you'll do is you'll add a mesh plane. Go ahead and make 2 of these. And the first one, call this high for high polygon. And call this one you can call it low or flat. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Go ahead and give this a texture by going to material properties and saying new. Now you're not going to give it an actual texture, but you're going to call this baked texture. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'm just trying to make it so it's a little easier to follow this tutorial. We don't have to give a texture to the high poly model. We just only need one for the low poly. Now, before we even begin, go ahead and go to your render properties and change the render engine to cycles. And change the device to GPU compute. If you have a decent GPU that's supported in Blender, which I think pretty much all of them are, but you have the option to use CPU also. Next, in the render tab here, I'm only going to let it do 32 samples. I mean, we're not rendering a photorealistic thing here, we're just rendering some normal maps. So it doesn't need to render all day. Denoising is up to you. I'd rather it not denoise the normals, but actually maybe it will be better. I haven't really compared the two, but it's up to you if you want to denoise or not. I'll just leave it off. Let's see. Now what you're going to do, go ahead and hide the low poly model, but you're not going to see anything change here, but it is hidden. Now the high poly model, we're going to go from object mode to edit mode. In edit mode, we're going to go to subdivide, and down here we're going to subdivide it 100 times, and depending on your CPU performance, depends on how many times you can probably subdivide this and still have some wiggle room for some leftover performance. I usually just do two subdivisions after the 100. And don't worry, if you happen to subdivide and close this, you can always subdivide again and you get another window pop up. So that's a pretty good bit of subdivisions. Now the next thing we'll do, we'll go into sculpt mode. Now in sculpt mode, you can basically do whatever to this and make three-dimensional things, three-dimensional meshes or whatnot. I installed the Blenderkit add-on, which allows me to get additional brushes for free. Now the ones with the locks, those are for those who want to upgrade to the full service, basically. Let me show you real quick where you can get Blenderkit. It's a free download. All you have to do is register a free account. But this is where you get it. Download Blenderkit, and then once you download it, you just go up to Edit, Preferences, and in the add-ons, go to Install, go to where you downloaded that file, and select the zipped Blenderkit install add-on. And once you do that, you'll see it pop up here. Enable the little checkbox to enable it. Alright, then you'll have this thing pop up here. This is your Blenderkit. You have options to download. There's a lot of free meshes in here, a lot of good stuff. There's meshes, there's textures, there's scenes, HDRI, HDRI background that light the environment with the lights from the scene for like ray tracing, rendering, and fine brushes, which is what we're on now. So if we want to make normals, say like of these rocks or this brick, we just select a brush. It'll download it, and you'll know it's downloaded once you see it up here. Now hitting F on the keyboard will show you how large it will do these bricks. And as you can see, as I'm painting on here, they are making like 3D raised bricks. Now that looks a little rough. Over here on the right, the active tool and workspace settings, I'll usually increase the hardness up to about 0.4, 0.5, and the auto smooth somewhere around 0.3, 0.4. Also, the brush. No, never mind. No, forget what I said about the brush. Don't worry about that. Alright, let's increase the strength more. Like I said, this decreases the radius, and this is the amount of strength. I think that'll work right there. That looks pretty good. Now, we're going to bake these normals onto the flat plane, which is, you can see it here. Now, do you see how there's a space between this raised, these bricks here? If we go back to object mode and we select the flat plane, remember we had it hidden, we just unhid it. If you were to move it so that, you know, some of this overhang is above and some of it's below, that seems to work pretty good. But what you're mainly interested in by looking at this here is the distance. If you measure from, say, this flat plane to the tallest peak of one of these bricks, you can see it's close to 0.1. Remember that number. We're going to go up to like 1.3, I think should be enough. Maybe 1.5. But we'll start with 1.0 and see how that works for us. Basically, think of the way we're going to bake. Think of this as a photocopier, a Xerox machine, you know. And normally you lay things flat on the Xerox machine, it makes a copy. Well, imagine a photocopy machine, which they do make actually, one that has a Z-axis, which can also capture things up to a certain point in 3D space. But not too much above and not too much below. So this number has to be entered in when it does its baking so that it gets all the Z-axis. And the Z-axis is what is up and down. So now all we have to do is go to shading, and in here we already made our texture for the low poly model, which we're baking to. We called it bake texture. Now we just have to add a texture image. We'll say new, and we'll do 1024 by 1024, no alpha channel. We don't need an alpha channel. Hit OK. Change the color space to linear. Now back over here, the same place where you set your render engine to cycles, if you scroll down you'll see bake. If you do not see bake, then you are not in cycles. You're still in the Eevee renderer. You can't bake in Eevee yet. I don't know if they'll ever have it where you can, but for now you can't. Once you open this tab, you'll see bake type. We're going to be baking normals, or normal. And here where you see selected to active, we're going to hit this with a checkbox. That's basically saying you're going to be baking from one thing to the other thing. That's how I understand it anyway. Now this is the place I said remember that measurement. This is where you'll put like 0.1, I'll just say 0.13, but I said 0.1. 0.15, something like that, just to make sure you cover that distance. If you don't, when you bake, you'll have holes in your texture. Kind of like if these things were to have chopped a hole into it. So that's why you got to give it that distance so it knows how much to basically scan when it's when it's baking, scanning, whatever you want to call it. Max ray distance, I always leave this at 1, and that's pretty much it. Now the only thing you have to do when you bake, you pick the high poly model, and then you hold shift and select the low poly model in that order, and you make sure that the low poly model, that this is selected here. That would be not selected, that would be selected. That way it knows to bake to that one, to that material. Because you have many materials in here, but you want to bake to this one for now. So we'll bake it, and then over here we'll get a preview when it's done. And that's a beautiful bake right there. If you ever did bake and this was yellow, then your normals are flipped. I'll flip them on purpose to show you what a bad bake would look like. So we'll take this here, flat plane, and this is also how you would correct the problem if you had a problem. Go to edit mode, and with the flat plane, hit A to select all, mesh, normals, flip. Now before you even have to go through and question this, you can always go up to the double balls up here, these two little circles, click this here and go to face orientation. That'll show you that they are flipped, they're red, that they need to be blue. Red is the opposite side of things in the game world, basically the inverse of it. If we were to bake it inversed, we'll have to reselect the high poly model and then select the low poly model like before. But you got to be in object mode to do that. Now let's bake it again, and you'll see the results. It's inside out. Now maybe you want it to be inside out. You know what? Just for fun, let's save it inside out. And I'm going to go ahead and stick this in the level that it's going in, so I don't have to be moving folders or be confused where I'm saving stuff to. So in my level, in the art folder, I'll just go ahead and make a new folder. And I'll call this brick decal. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'll just call this normals 1. It'll save it as a PNG. If you want compression, that's up to you. I usually turn it off. Alright, now we're going to bake the correct way, where it's flipped the right way. So I'll go back to edit mode with the low poly selected and hitting A to select all if it ain't already selected. Mesh, normals, flip. I'll go back to object mode, and like we are in the shading tab, but because you can be here, you know, when you go to object mode to edit mode, you don't have to necessarily be in the shading tab when you're doing that, but just so there's no confusion there. Alright, so we got the high poly selected. We'll pick the low poly and we will bake. I will save this one as normals 2. That way we can compare the two. Alright, so we're done baking for now. We could bake a roughness map, but we don't even have a texture or anything, so let's not even fool with that. Let's load our photo editor and let's import in those normals that we just baked. There's 2 of them, and the reason we're going to import them is so that we can do a tile seamless on them to get out any seams. I gotta think, where's my damn folder? There we go. Brick decal. We'll just pull both of these into here, and while I'm here, I'll go ahead and convert them to DDS. Now, when you make a decal, they go top to bottom or bottom to top. That's the direction that you. So if you want these to be sideways, for example, on a decal that's supposed to be a road, then you would need to rotate these. So I'll just image. Where's it at? Transform, rotate. I'll do the same thing with this one. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and just save it as a DDS format. So file, export. Actually, no, I'm going to leave it as a PNG. Nah, I'll make it DDS. Let me do it the right way. DDSs are better on your computer performance than PNGs and JPEGs, because they don't have to go through the CPU to be processed before they go to the GPU. DDS go straight to the GPU. So we'll call this, which one was that's the regular color? Normals correct. .dds. Now this is going to be BC5 compression type. When you're dealing with DDS format, they have to be compressed for BeamNG. With normal maps, all normal maps is BC5. And I personally generate MIP maps. I think it makes them look better. Less aliasing on the pixels. Alright, we'll do the same with this one. This will be normals flipped, so that we know which one's which. .dds. Now, since these aren't actually going on any particular object, all we need to do is just put a main.materials.json in here and open it with Notepad++, and all we're going to do is give these two a name. So there's one material here. You can always tell the end of the materials where you see a bracket, and a bracket is the end. There's no more when you see two of these. And everything that is in between the very first bracket, which is this one, and the last brackets, this is actually the material. So if you were ever in doubt, well, do I copy this, or do I copy all this when I copy? No. If you're making a duplicate, like we're about to do, all you need to do is copy this. Just copy it to your clipboard and hit enter, and then hit shift one of those brackets there and put a comma, and then hit enter so that you can paste what you just copied. So this is what two materials would look like. So you got a bracket and a comma that always separates another material. And if you wanted to put another material, you just put a bracket and a comma, and you would paste it like so, just so that the last one ends with just two brackets. Now we don't need two textures, so I'll just remove this. So the first one, let's just call it brick correct decal, because it's the correct way, not the flip one. Now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in here and here. And that's all we have to do. All this stuff is fine. Not do anything else. It's even got the material tags that are necessary to use this as a decal, so it will already appear in your decal selector. This was required after like version 2.4 came out, if I recall correctly. Now we'll make this one bricks flipped, since we know that's the flip one. I did not tell you something that I forgot. We got to put in here where you see normal map, we got to put in the name of the file. So if this was the correct one, which is the normal's correct, I'm going to copy this to my clipboard, And I only do this so I don't misspell anything. And I can't remember exactly all these all the time. So I'll paste this here. That's all I'm going to do there. And then here in this one, I'll put the other one's name. I also copy these because I forget what I name things. But it does help to not misspell things. We're saving it, and we're done with this. Now we can load the game and see what these look like. Oh, you dumb idiot. I just realized I did not flip the normals. I mean, not flip the normals. I'm sorry. I did not. Shit. I didn't tile seamless like I said I was supposed to do. That's why we brought them in here for the first place, so that we can go to filters, map, tile, seamless. That way, when the thing continues, it doesn't have a seam in it when you're making a decal, or you'll see a seam every time it repeats. We'll just re-export and overwrite, and I'll do that with this one real quick. So yeah, I forgot. Sorry about that. I always forget that. I always forget something when I make these videos. Let's load up our game. It's already loaded. Let's load the map. I'm going to show you the song. I attempted to make this video yesterday, and I just got tired. I was making too many mistakes. Alright, just ignore this. This is just something that did not work like I thought it would, or not as good as I thought it should have worked. Let's get this out of the way. It's kind of eye distracting. Alright. So here you can see we have different materials. What? These are different materials that I made that are flat. They don't have any normals whatsoever. Now the normals map I made yesterday, I can show you them before we make this new one. Or I could show you the new one actually. We need a brick. We need something more like that bricks would be on, though, for it to look like bricks. Let's go to this mud here and put this new material, this new decal. Going to make a decal, you just select your decal and you hold Alt, and then you move your mouse and you press the button, the left button again to. That's a very wide decal, so I'm going to hit Control A to select both of these nodes, and I'm going to change this to like 10, maybe 8. Now over here, this is where you'll pick your decal. You can start typing it here. I'm going to start typing bricks, correct. Now you see, this is the normals map. Now I'm going to leave it here for just a moment to show you what the other one looks like flipped. They look the same, don't they? I can't tell. They look exactly the same to me. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm not, maybe I lied. Maybe the normals being flipped don't matter as far as decals. Alright, so you can't use it like this. So you need to go to Material Editor and we'll pick the decal, which was bricks. I guess that's that one. We're gonna go to Advanced. We're gonna change the alpha blend to LERP alpha, and we're gonna change the alpha amount to 0. So now you just see the decal of the bricks. Now these are awfully large bricks for. That's why I said I think that decal's too wide, and this decal don't look that great yet, honestly. Hope it looks better when it's a little smaller. Now we can also add a second normals map, which I'll make the same, use the same map. Now here, if you want to, you can make this tile even more. If you want like little bricks on top of the big bricks, but in this case I'm just using it as a multiplier. But honestly, I don't really see this making these look that good. I mean, you may say, well, that looks great, but let's drag it over all these, so we can get a good idea like all these different textures, how it affects them all. That's why I got them all like laid out like this for a little test. So you can see how it affects the dirt, how it affects the gravel, and this asphalt, which probably would really need, you'd probably really want something more like a brick texture map if you were going to do bricks. But I was just kind of showing you how you can use the different decals, brushes to bake different decals. Let's pick the ones from yesterday that I made. Let me just take a quick peek at this, see if there's any difference. I don't believe there is. Alright, that's the first one, and this was the other one. Look exactly the same to me. Oh well. Alright, this is the ones I made yesterday. So you can see how this makes the flat gravel have more, hold on a second. Is that one? Yeah, that's one. Now that's way too much. So it's just adding to your already existing texture. Let's pick the other one. This is actually the one that looked better, in my opinion. I'm going to make a copy of this. Just Control D, or no, it's Shift D. No, it is Control D. It's Control D. So if we go up here to the gravel now, you can see it has more depth, or appears to have more depth. And if we edit the material and we tell the normals for the second one to tile, say, I don't know, maybe 5 times, and increase this to like 1 or 2, you can see how it even more looks like it's got 3-dimensional depth to it, compared to before, where it's flat. It definitely makes a difference. And it doesn't matter what you put them on. Even if the thing's already got normal maps, it'll go over whatever other normal maps already are existing. You can enhance what is already there that you have already made. If you already made terrain paints and you just want to make them look better without having to try to remaster the way you make your decal. Instead of having to reinvent the way you made your materials, well, you can do something like this. Hold on. Apply a large decal. Give it some more characteristics. Before, after. And you can put any number of different things on there. For example, say you got some dirt. Say you got some dirt. Now this already has a normals map, like I said, but you can always add another normals map. Let's see here. Decal, moon decal. Alright, bear with me a moment. Let me get this situated. Now, what I'll do too is I'll blend the edges like a few pixels so that it'll gradually feather off. Now, this looks like it's a 3D hole, but the ground's still flat. But since it's a decal, you can raise the terrain and make it even more better. Like a crater, like a regular old crater. See, so now it's not just a raised hill with just a hole in the middle. You know, now it actually has some characteristics that kind of make it look a little better. You can accent the thing, give it a little more Trying to remember which one it is. Hold on a second. One of these. Which one is it? There it is. Man, it's just one little idea. You can do this on the road too. Driving on along. You can see where I was messing with some decals here. I was just trying some different ones to see what I wanted to use. Not that you would want holes all along your road, but I mean you could if you wanted to. What I'll do is I'll just split this into different ones. If I just want one or two holes or whatever, just split it. And there's a lot of decals. You see how I'm adjusting the texture link to accommodate the width of the thing, and how if you move it too much you'll get two, it'll start making another one. So that's how I do that there. And of course you do the same thing. You raise up your ground. Sometimes it takes these decals a minute or so before they actually update. I thought they fixed that a long time ago or improved that, but still seems to do it. Yeah, I tried to make actual decals for like a broke road, which would make it easier to break a road and make it look somewhat convincing that, it's like cracked asphalt and stuff without having to make a model. I kind of had some luck with it. Not as much as I wanted. Oh, that's using this new dirt. That's why. New dirt. Stick dirt dark in the middle. And then maybe put a little lighter something on the edge. Not that. This was a decal that I made of a hole also that was not made from baking normals. It was just made from shit, I forgot what I did when I made this thing. It's kind of like a turd right now, but give me a minute. Smaller than that. Get the hell out of the way. Moon decal. Let's make this stronger. You also, if you want to, you can give it a slight color shift by increasing the alpha just a little bit, just a little. You don't want not much, but then you can kind of mess with the colors to give it a little different shade if you needed to give it a little different shade depending on what it is you're trying to blend your decal in. Just remember that that will save it for all the decals though. So you'd have to make a separate texture if you wanted to have some with various different colors. I experimented a little yesterday with the see, that's kind of like a cookie there in the middle. You probably want to see what it looked like driving over it, so I'll do that too. I'll drive over it one time. Now, of course, the decal itself doesn't provide any kind of physics or anything for the car. It's just for looks. That's why I raised the ground up. Alright, where's my, let's see if I can. Bigger hole than I thought it was. Alright, yeah, like I was saying, you can change the decal to change the terrain too. So like if we were to want to improve this grass terrain with a decal, like we've been doing, make a really big decal this time. Make this one like, I don't know, let's see, 100. Camera's irritating me. Alright. I will just wrap this on around the heel. So you got this heel. You want to add to it. So you already made your terrain paints. You know, like I said, you don't want to have to reinvent a terrain paint. You just want to make it look a little better, you know. Just slap a new normals on it. A normals decal on it. Or you can put one on the heel back here too. Make that heel look a little better. Of course, with a very wide decal, you'll have to really make the texture length a lot longer. So let's do decal 2. Texture length. And you can see back here how that's already affecting that, making that look a little better. We don't have our terrain up all the way above the model that it's here. A bunch of patches of different things here and there too. As you can see, this is so much different now. And you can even make it a little, you know, take it a step farther, and you know, if you want to use this to actually make these humps, I mean, it'll go right with it. So that these humps will look like better raised humps, you know, depending on what you're trying to make. Or the side of the heel. I think these were actually baked from a rock brush from Blender. Like I picked rocks when I made the when I baked it. Actually, what would work probably better would be this. And of course you would want to feather that thing probably about 25 pixels at least, maybe even 50, depending on what it's, you know, going into, or what it's, you know, next to or whatnot. That just makes a whole difference, all the difference in the world. Take an area that already looks okay, make it better. Which, this is an actual model here. No, it's not. It's a decal. I'm sorry. I was thinking I made a model there, but it's a decal. And take the decal. Now that decal's got priority. So you go to inspector, tell the render priority to be less, but it's still not showing up over it. Not really sure. Not really sure with that. But that is a decal that I made, so not quite sure why it does not let the other one have priority over that one. No, I'm not going to try to sit here all day and figure it out, because I don't know right off the top of my head what's going on with that. But yeah, that is just a... Like, we'll put this on the heel instead of on that. Heel back here. Maybe there's another one back here. Definitely a difference. I have noticed with very large decals, sometimes it's hard to get them to go on things exactly how you want them to. I don't know why, but some reason they just, like I tried to make a big lake one time with just a very large decal, and it did not want to go on there correctly. It just gave me a lot of trouble. Now you may say, well, that's too much. That's way too intense there. Well, you can just go to the decal. You can make another decal, or you can just edit the one that you're using and just reduce the amount of strength that it's got. And you don't even have to have the second normal map at all. You can just get rid of it and just use the first one. You can change it to another kind of normals map that's you bake. See if I got some others in here. Well, this is the brick, but this ain't gonna probably look right. But you can see how it adds to that. Let's see. There's a problem when you start having things in too many folders, you forget where you put things. That's one thing about having things in all these folders. I damn don't remember where I put it. Man, barely see that. It's very subtle. You don't really see much. There they are. No, that ain't them. Shit, where in the hell did I put them at? There. No? That ain't it either. In here. Alright, say you want to make one for this here. For the road. Or what'll be the road at some point. can see with the normals and without. That could be dirt, could be anything. Let's see with some others. That's more like a dirt. Gravel. What the shit? That'd be more like something for your gravel there. And you can mix and match them. You know, you can put different ones for different things. Have a variety of different ones working together to make the look that you're wanting, depending on what you want to make. And it all comes back to Blender. What do you want to bake? What do you want to bake when that's not Blender? What do you want to bake when you're in Blender? You know, it's up to you. Like those are bricks. Let's take this one and make a quickly go to edit mode and do the same thing to get this one ready. I'll just show you just some different brushes, how they look on here. Edge, subdivide. Now one thing I like to do, I like to make water and stuff in sculpt mode. There's this thing here called Cloth Simulator, which I increase the simulation limit. But you have different ways you can push, pull, pinch, inflate, grab. Basically, you can simulate cloth on this thing. Ooh, probably should have subdivided one less time. So I'm still waiting to see what the results are from what I just did. Oh man, way too much. Telling it too much to do at one time. Yeah, let me undo the amount of subdivisions. That was way too many. Shade smooth. Shade smooth. So like when a river's running, you get all these little ripples and things. You know how rivers, you know, this works pretty good to simulate how waves move in a creek or a river. The thing I'm trying to say is that you can bake these in the normals, and if you already have like, if you like me and use animated textures for moving rivers, you add this to it, it'll give it even more of a characteristic. And you can also enable self collisions where it'll collide with itself and not go through itself. Oh, people that like portals, for example, you can make something pretty easily with that by just getting a big brush and, you know, you can do stuff like that with the sculpt. You wouldn't want to do that too much, but you get the idea. You can pretty much make anything in here and bake the normals. Flatten it back out. Go to our brushes here, show you just some others, give you some other ideas. Like this was the rocks that I had made for one of them, I think. No, it wasn't. Now this, I need to actually subdivide this one more time for these brushes. Not sure why you would want that. Looks like a football. Yeah, there's all kinds of things in here. All kinds of different rocks, all kinds of different shit. There's a lot in here. And these are all the free ones. Like, just the ones with the locks on them, the ones that are not free. I mean, I have no idea what you'd use some of these for, but like this was the one I'd used to do the cracked rogue, but I didn't have that much strength on there. Let's see. Let me, That's pretty cool looking ground. So you probably can already imagine all the different things you could make. I'm looking for the sand dune. That's not the one I'm thinking. There's another one that's better than that. Or I prefer better than that. That's a pretty cool looking crack. Not seeing it. Yeah, I don't know where the hell it is. That'd look pretty cool. And you also can make your own brushes, so I don't get into all that, but you can make them. I've made some, but damn, that irritates my ass. I can't find the damn thing. But I think you get the idea. There's lots of things you can make. You can bake your textures and apply them to any terrain paint, pretty much. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I really don't know what else to say about it other than it's just a great way to improve the terrain paints you already have. Someone has asked about making a tutorial on terrain paints, but I'd say try this first. Make you some decals first, and see how they improve your existing terrains, and then if needed, make you some new terrain paints. Because I don't know, for me, having terrains that you bake, or having decals that you bake and use in the game, I mean, it's like putting a brand new coat of paint on your material, basically. So I can't really think of nothing else to cover. I think this is pretty much it. Yeah, just let me know if there's any questions related to this. I be happy to see if I can answer them.